My twin sister showed up at the hospital with marks all over her arms. When I saw what was happening to her, I knew I had to switch places with her to stop the bad people. My name is Maya and my sister is Sarah. We look exactly the same, like two cookies from the same batch. But our lives were very different, like the sun and the moon. People said I was different, that something was wrong with me. The doctors used big words. They said I got too excited and too angry really fast. I felt everything 10 times bigger than other people. When I was happy, my heart felt like it would pop. And when I got mad, well, that's why I ended up here. When I was 16, I threw a rock at a boy's car window. He wasn't even mean to me. But he was yelling at my sister Sarah and pulling her backpack, trying to take her money. Sarah was crying so hard. I felt my whole body get hot. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I just remember the glass breaking, the boy running away, and everyone staring at me like I was a monster. They didn't look at him. They looked at me. They called me dangerous. My mom and dad got really scared. They didn't know what to do with me. So they brought me to this place called Sunnybrook Hospital. And just like that, 10 years went by. 10 years in a tiny room with white walls. 10 years looking out a window with bars on it. 10 years where my only company was medicine that made me sleepy and other patients who screamed at night. But honestly, I didn't hate it here. It was quiet. Nobody bothered me much. I could read books and exercise. Every single day for 10 years I worked out. I did exercises on the floor. I used the bars on my window to pull myself up. I did stomach exercises. Anything to use up all the energy inside me. My body got strong and tough. These 10 years stuck here gave me one gift. I became stronger than most grown men outside. The only thing that hurt my heart was thinking about Sarah. She got all of Mom's sweetness. I got all of Dad's toughness. She was soft like clouds, never wanting to hurt anyone. The day they took me away, she cried until no more tears came out. Maya, it should be me locked up. I'm no good at anything, she said. I grabbed her shoulders and shook them. If you say that stupid stuff again, I'll be so mad at you. You have to live your life. You have to be happy for both of us. She promised me she would try. The next year, she came to visit with a man. She said they were getting married. His name was Marcus Webb. He was tall and smiled a lot, but something about his eyes felt wrong. His eyes moved around too much, and when he looked at me, I saw he thought he was better than everyone. I held Sarah's hand really tight. I don't like this man. Please think about it more. Sarah just smiled sadly. With how unlucky I am. It's amazing anyone wants to marry me. Mom and Dad are getting old. He promised to take care of me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break through the glass between us. But what could I do? I was the crazy one. Who would listen to me? The wedding happened without me there. Sarah came to see me every month. She always brought something nice like apples or cookies. She told me about her new life. She talked about having a baby. She talked about her daughter Emma. She tried to sound happy, but I'm Maya, her other half. I knew she was pretending. Every time she visited, she looked thinner. The dark spots under her eyes got darker. Her smile looked like it might break. She always wore shirts with long sleeves that covered everything. Even when it was super hot outside in July, I asked her about it many times. She always said married women should dress nicely and cover up. Lie. She was hiding something. Today was visiting day again. I waited from the morning. The sky outside was gray and cloudy, just like my worried heart. I had a really bad feeling. The anger I'd been holding inside for 10 years was waking up. It felt like a hungry tiger waiting in the shadows, ready to jump out. And I knew that today, something was going to happen. I heard the door lock click. The heavy metal door opened with a loud squeak. The second Sarah walked in, my heart felt squeezed. The person in front of me wasn't the Sarah I remembered. She looked like a thin shadow, so weak and small. She wore an old shirt with holes in it and the collar pulled up high. Even though summer was burning hot, she dressed like this. Her hair was messy. Her face looked hollow and white. But the worst part was her eyes. Where did my sister's bright, kind eyes go? Now there were only 2 deep holes filled with sadness. Her eyes looked dead and empty. And under her left eye, there was a purple bruise covered with cheap makeup from the drugstore. She forced a smile that made my stomach feel sick. "Maya, how are you?" Her voice was weak and shaky like a dried leaf. She put a basket of bad-looking oranges on the table. They were probably the cheap ones on sale that she bought to save money. I didn't answer. I walked up to her and stood right in front of her. I raised my hand and gently touched the bruise under her eye with my rough fingers. She jumped back like a scared bird afraid of everything. "Oh, it's nothing. I fell off my bike." "You fell off your bike," I repeated. My voice sounded cold as ice. "You fall and only get a bruise on one eye. How do you fall that way?" She mumbled something, looked down, and twisted her hands together. I looked at her hands. Her knuckles were puffy and red. Her fingernails were short and scratched up. Were these the hands of someone who worked hard, or someone fighting to protect herself? The anger started rising in me. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice calm. "I'm asking you, Sarah, why are you wearing long sleeves when it's so hot?" "I don't like the sun. I've been feeling weak lately." I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed her wrist. She made a little cry and tried to pull away. "Maya, what are you doing? That hurts." That she said it hurt made my anger burn hotter. I ignored her begging and pulled her sleeve up. Then I saw it. The map of terrible things. My sister's thin, white arms were covered in bruises. Old yellow bruises. New dark purple bruises. Red swollen marks. There were circle marks like someone squeezed her hard with their fingers. There were long thin marks like from a belt or stick. I let go of her hand. My whole body shook, not from being scared but from being so angry. An angry fire I hadn't felt in 10 years. That jerk Marcus did this. It wasn't a question. It was a fact I knew. Sarah froze. She stopped trying to hide it. Like a dam breaking, she fell down and covered her face and started crying hard. A long, sad cry that had been stuck inside burst out. "Maya, Maya, save me. Help me." She crawled on the floor and grabbed my legs. "He hits me. He hits me all the time. His mother and his sister treat me worse than dirt. And he hits Emma too. He hits Emma." That last sentence made me turn to stone. That monster had hit Emma, my 3-year-old niece. I bent down and lifted Sarah up. This time she fell into my arms, completely empty of strength. I looked at her face full of tears. I looked at those eyes that looked like mine, but now only full of hopelessness. "Stop crying," I said. My voice was deep and rough. "Crying doesn't fix anything. Tell me everything from the beginning to the end. What has that jerk done to you? What has he done to Emma?" I sat my sister down on my metal bed. I poured her a cup of water. She drank between sobs and then she started talking. What she told me was like a death sentence for that family. Sarah sat on the bed with shaking shoulders. She held the cup of water with trembling hands. With a broken voice stuck in her throat, she began to speak. Every word she said felt like a knife stabbing my heart. "At the beginning he acted nice," Sarah started. "At least when Mom and Dad were around. But when I moved into his house, that's when I found out what hell was like. Her husband Marcus was addicted to playing games where you bet money. He worked at a store moving boxes and didn't make much money. But every night he spent it all betting on sports games and playing online casino games. He spent all our wedding money in 3 months," she cried. When I said something, he slapped me. It was the first time. He said, "What do you know? It's my money. I'll do what I want." That slap became something he did all the time. If he lost money betting, he hit his wife. If he won money, he still hit her, saying it was her fault he didn't win more. I squeezed my hands into fists so hard my nails dug into my skin. But I didn't feel the pain. But the worst part, my sister shook, wasn't Marcus. It was his mother, Mrs. Webb. A really mean and bossy woman. She looked at me like I was trash, like a thief who stole her son. She hurt me slowly. If I cooked, she said it was too salty or had no taste. She'd dump the whole pot in the garbage and make me start over. Even if I cleaned the house 3 times, she said it was dirty. That woman forced me to wash everyone's underwear by hand, even my sister-in-law's. Closed my eyes. The picture of my sweet, shy Sarah bent over washing those dirty things made me feel sick. And the sister-in-law? Growled. She was worse, Sarah shook her head. Tasha got divorced and moved back home with her son. She lives there for free. She treated me like a servant. She left her clothes everywhere and told me to wash them. Her son Kevin is a spoiled brat. He hurt Emma every single day. I opened my eyes quickly. What did he do to Emma? Sarah started crying again. Emma is only 3 years old, Maya. Kevin is 5. He took her toys, pushed her down, threw her to the floor. He even spit in her food. When I said something, my sister-in-law came running and yelled at me. Who do you think you are to tell my son what to do? Your daughter doesn't even have a real father. And then she even told her son to hit Emma. Hit her son. Annoying brats need to learn a lesson. Mrs. Webb just watched and laughed. They're just kids playing. Your daughter needs to be tougher. She has to let her cousin win. And Marcus, your husband, the child's father. Yes. My voice sounded raw. Sarah lowered her head and said in a tiny voice. He looked the other way. He said women need to have sons. Having a daughter is worthless. And. He stopped. Talk! Shouted. He jumped. Yesterday he came home totally drunk after losing money. Emma was crying because Kevin was pulling her hair. He went crazy. Shut up, you useless kid, he screamed at her. When the little girl got scared and cried louder, She couldn't keep talking and put her hand on her cheek. He hit Emma in the face, I whispered. But I felt like someone was choking me. Sarah nodded with tears falling down. She's only 3 years old. She had the mark of 5 fingers on her face. When I ran to protect her and begged him to stop, he hit me. He dragged me to the bathroom. He pushed my head under the water in the sink. I thought I was going to die, Maya. I couldn't breathe. The bruises on my arms are from the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law. Instead of stopping him when they saw him hitting me, they joined in. Tasha scratched me with a comb. Mrs. Webb grabbed some dirty socks and shoved them in my mouth to shut me up. That was enough. Everything inside me exploded. I was done with being patient and quiet. I jumped up. Sarah looked at me, terrified. Maya, what are you going to do? I walked over to the small metal mirror in the room. I looked at myself. My face was white but my eyes were burning. I looked at Sarah. We were identical. The same face, the same body. The only difference was she was dying inside and I had just been born again. Sister, I turned around. My voice was scary calm. You didn't come here today for a regular visit. You came to swap lives with me. Sarah froze and stared at me. Her eyes got really big with fear. Maya, what are you saying? Swap our lives. I looked right into her eyes, firm and sure. You stay here and I go out. Whoa. No. Sarah shook her head really fast and grabbed my hand. Maya, don't you understand? That place is hell. Those people are animals. You've been locked up here for 10 years. You won't make it out there. And what about the paperwork? How are you going to get out? I smiled coldly. You're wrong, sister. Because I've been here for 10 years, I can handle those animals. Look. I pointed at the bars. I've lived with animals here too. The only difference is the ones here are locked up, and the ones out there run free. I let go of her hand and grabbed her shoulders. Listen carefully. You're not crazy, which is why you can't beat them. I'm crazy. Only a crazy person like me can deal with that garbage. Do you think I'm going to escape? Whoa. I'm walking out the front door with everyone watching. I led her to the metal mirror. Look, we are one person. Who can tell the difference between Sarah and Maya? Sarah looked at our reflection in the mirror, shaking. We were identical down to every hair. This is the plan, I said quickly. Visiting time was almost over. Take off your clothes. I'll take off my hospital clothes. Maya, but. No buts, I cut her off. Do you want Emma to live her whole life getting beaten? Do you want to rot in that corner? Trust me, I haven't been here for 10 years for nothing. I've been waiting for this day. I explained the plan. From now on, you are Maya. You're safe in this room. Nobody will hit you or bother you. The doctors and nurses here are good people. They just don't understand me. You just stay calm. If anyone asks you anything, you don't have to answer. Just nod yes or shake your head no. They're used to me doing that. They'll say, Maya is so quiet today. You just eat, sleep, and read. I looked deep into her eyes, sending her my calm. You don't have to do anything. Just wait for me. I will clean up that dump. I will make them pay for what they did. I will get Emma out of there. I promise you. Sarah's hopeless look slowly changed to a tiny bit of hope. Though weak, she had no choice. She had nothing to lose. She nodded her head. Be careful. I know. We quickly changed clothes. I put on her old worn-out clothes. They smelled like mildew, fear, and a bit of blood. The anger boiled inside me again. I slipped Sarah's ID card and the old house keys into my pocket. In the baggy patient clothes, Sarah suddenly looked very small. I gave her a fierce hug. Don't move from here. Wait for me. The bell rang announcing the end of visiting time. I took a deep breath and walked to the door. The nurse on duty saw me and nodded. Mrs. Webb, you're leaving now? I nodded, forcing a shaky smile like my sister's. The iron door of the patient area slammed shut behind me. A dry metal sound echoed. I walked out the main entrance of the hospital. The bright summer sunlight hit my face. 10 years. I breathed free air after 10 years. It was full of car smoke, dust, and the loud roar of the street. But to me it was the smell of war. And I was a demon just freed from chains. I squeezed the keys in my pocket. Marcus, Mrs. Webb, Tasha, Kevin, here I come. I got on a bus and then walked almost another mile. Following Sarah's directions, their house was deep in a dark, winding alley on the east side. The houses were crammed together, damp, with electrical wires tangled like spider webs. The smell of sewage and old food hit my nose. I stopped in front of a rundown one-story house. The iron gate was rusty. Sarah lived here. My sister, who had always been so neat and clean, had to bury her life in a place worse than my cell. My hands shook as I put the key in the lock. The door opened with a loud creak. The first thing I saw was mess. Clothes thrown on a chair. Plates with old food on the table, with flies flying around. The floor was sticky. A sour, gross smell filled everything. And then I saw my niece Emma. She was sitting in the darkest corner of the house next to an old cabinet. She was so skinny with pale skin. She wore an old dress that was too small, with a big rip in one shoulder. She held a doll with no head. When she heard the door noise, she jumped. She looked up. Seeing her mother, she didn't run to me. She shrank back and hugged the doll tight with both hands. Her eyes were full of fear. The child was afraid of her own mother. I felt like my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Damn animals. What did they do to a little girl? They had turned a 3-year-old into a scared creature who was afraid of even her own mother. I tried to make my face soft. I bent down and used a gentle voice I had almost forgotten. Emma, Mommy is here now. The girl just shook and stared at me. Come to Mommy. I held out my hand. The girl hesitated, looked at me, then looked behind me like she was waiting for someone else. And that someone spoke. That one crawled back already. A sour, mean voice came from inside. Sarah's mother-in-law, Mrs. Webb, shuffled out. She was short and heavy with gray-colored skin. She wore loud flowered pajamas and held a paper fan. Where have you been all day? Did you go see your crazy sister? She spit on the floor right next to me. Did you bring anything back to this house? Or are you just coming back with that pathetic face to eat our food? I slowly stood up, hiding Emma behind my back. I looked at her. I didn't say a word. I just stared. I drilled my eyes into her cloudy, evil ones. I remembered this face. The old woman seemed to notice something was different. The daughter-in-law who usually put her head down and shook when insulted was standing tall today and daring to look her in the face. What are you looking at? She raised the fan and pointed at my face. What bug bit you today? You want me to poke your eyes out? I gave a very slow smile. Excuse me, mother-in-law. I didn't hear you clearly. My smile seemed to freeze her blood. I. Before she could finish, another loud voice interrupted her. Oh, Mom, why bother talking to her? Tell her to make dinner. I'm starving. My sister-in-law Tasha came out of the main room. She was just as heavy as her mother with a face full of pimples and messy fake blonde hair. Behind her, a chubby 5-year-old boy followed with a mean look on his face. He looked just like his mother, Kevin. Seeing Emma, he ran toward her. Hey, you're playing with a doll. Give it to me. He grabbed the headless doll from her hands. Emma, frightened, burst into tears. Give it back. Give it back, cousin. It's mine. I won't give it back. Your toys are mine. Kevin raised the doll and threw it at the wall. Who plays with this garbage? He turned to Emma and pushed her hard. Why are you crying? Shut up. If you cry again, I'm really going to hit you. Emma fell onto the dirty floor. She was so scared she stopped crying right away. Only a choked sob came from her throat. Mrs. Webb and Tasha watched and laughed like it was funny. That's my boy, Tasha said, lifting her chin. Men have to be strong like that, not like that little brat. My rage. Yes, there was roaring in my chest. 10 years of holding it in. It was over. The smile disappeared from my face. Kevin, seeing that Emma wasn't crying, got even braver. He walked over and raised his foot to kick her. I told you to shut up. A hand grabbed his ankle in midair. Kevin lost his balance and fell backward, but his ankle was still held firm. It was my hand. Suddenly, the house fell into deadly silence. Kevin's eyes went wide. He was used to hurting his cousin, used to his grandmother and mother always taking his side. Never had Emma's mother touched him. Let go of me. Let go, you crazy witch. How dare you touch my leg, he squirmed. Without a word, I squeezed a little. Ow! It hurts. It hurts. Grandma. This ant is breaking my leg. Kevin started screaming. Tasha finally reacted. My God, Sarah, what are you doing? Let go of my son right now. She ran toward me, ready to scratch my face with her red-painted nails. Still holding Kevin's leg, I raised my other hand and blocked Tasha's arm. I grabbed her wrist. Let go. Let go, Tasha struggled, but my hand was like a steel trap. Sister-in-law, I said with no expression on my face. You should teach your son better. He's a child, yes, but he can't be a spoiled brat. If he touches Emma again. I squeezed my hand. Both Kevin and Tasha let out cries of pain. The next time, I won't just settle for breaking one leg. Mom, help me, Tasha screamed, terrified, calling her mother. Mrs. Webb finally snapped out of it. He shook with rage. Her daughter-in-law, the one she hit and insulted every day, dared to fight back today. She dared to touch her daughter and her precious grandson. You are crazy. Mrs. Webb grabbed a feather duster nearby. You've gotten too big for yourself. Today I'm going to beat you to death. She swung the duster and started hitting my back over and over without stopping. I didn't move. My back was used to worse pain at the hospital. I slowly let go of Kevin and Tasha. Mother and son quickly backed away. Mrs. Webb, seeing that I wasn't reacting, got even braver. I'm going to beat that attitude out of you so you know who's boss in this house. The duster kept hitting my shoulders and chest. I slowly stood up straight and turned to face her. The duster kept hitting my shoulders and chest. I raised my hand and grabbed the duster handle. Mrs. Webb, surprised, tried to pull it away, but it didn't move even a tiny bit. I looked at her. She looked at me. In her eyes was anger. In mine, only cold emptiness that I pulled hard. Mrs. Webb stumbled forward. I snapped the duster handle in two. Crack. I threw the pieces at her feet. Starting today, I said. This house is going to have rules. I looked at the old woman breathing hard, the sister-in-law rubbing her wrist with a shaking hand, and the mean nephew who was whimpering. It's time for dinner. What do we have tonight, mother-in-law? Mrs. Webb, caught between fear and anger, stammered. The dinner, the rotten fish you brought from the store yesterday. Make a stew with it, very salty and dry, so we don't waste the money I feed your family with. There it was. The star dish Sarah had told me about. The salty fish stew she was forced to make and eat every time. Yes, mother-in-law, I will. Leaving 3 pairs of shocked eyes behind, I walked into the kitchen. I saw the fish that smelled rotten in a bowl. With perfect calm, I cleaned it and put it in a pot to cook. I poured half a bag of salt into the pot. I left it to cook until all the water dried up and the fish burned black. The smell of salt and burning was terrible. I set the table, a bowl of yesterday's cold rice, a dish of yellow boiled vegetables, and my masterpiece, the fish stew. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, nephew, dinner's ready. Mrs. Webb, huffing, sat down at the table, grabbed a big piece of fish and shoved it in her mouth. Her face instantly changed color from red to purple. She spit out the food. Ugh. This is so salty. It's so salty it's going to kill me. You want to kill me. With complete calm I picked up some vegetables. You told me to make it salty and dry. I followed your instructions. Is it to your liking? To my liking? No way. She was so angry she picked up the hot clay pot with her hands. I'm going to throw this pot at your face. Just as she was about to lean it toward me, boom. I slammed the table hard. The cheap wooden table shook hard. The plates and silverware clattered. Put it down on the table. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to scare the whole family. Mrs. Webb's hand froze. She looked at me. She saw the look of a mad woman. You're not going to eat. I lowered my voice. If you don't eat, it's wasting food. Do you want me to feed you? A daughter-in-law must respect her mother-in-law. I stood up and walked around the table. With a large spoon, I took a piece of burnt fish. Come on, mother-in-law. Open your mouth. You. This is crazy, Mrs. Webb said, terrified, and pushed her chair back. With one hand, I grabbed her chin and squeezed hard. Her mouth opened by itself. I shoved the spoonful of fish down her throat. Eat it, I growled. Taste the flavor my sister Sarah had to deal with for years. Taste what it's like to respect other people's work. Mrs. Webb coughed really hard, snot and tears mixing on her face. The hard, salty piece of fish got stuck in her throat. She tried to spit it out, but I held her jaw firmly. Swallow, I commanded. My sister-in-law Tasha couldn't just sit there watching her mother be treated like this. She forgot her fear, and her years of being mean came back. Hey Sarah, let go of my mother right now. How dare you force-feed her? She ran toward me, ready to scratch my face with her thick, sharp nails. She thought since I was busy holding the old woman, I wouldn't be ready. She was wrong. My left hand was holding Mrs. Webb's chin. My right hand was free. Without even turning my head, I swung my right hand back. Blat. Sounded like an explosion. It wasn't the sound of a slap. It was like hitting a piece of meat with a board. Tasha froze. She staggered. Her big body spun and hit the wall. Her cheek went from white to deep red and got puffy right away. The mark of my 5 fingers was printed there. Her ears were ringing. Her eyes went wide. She touched her cheek, then looked at my hand. She had a look of disbelief. She, who had spent her whole life hitting and insulting others, was being hit for the first time by her sister-in-law, who she thought was trash. It was then that I let go of Mrs. Webb's chin. She immediately crawled on the floor to throw up the piece of fish. I slowly faced Tasha. Sister-in-law. My voice was like ice. Does your cheek hurt? She shook with fear and embarrassment. You dare to hit me? I'm your sister-in-law. I only slapped you. I moved closer to her. She pressed against the wall, backing away. Do you want to feel what a real beating is like? Like the one you and your mother gave Sarah last night, helping Marcus. I said exactly what Sarah had told me. Tasha's face turned white as paper. How? How do you know? I know everything, I smiled. I also know that you scratched my sister with a comb and that your mother shoved dirty socks in her mouth. Do you want to try it? I glanced at a pile of Kevin's dirty socks thrown in a corner. Tasha let out a scream. She knew I wasn't joking. No. Well, you're a demon. You're not Sarah. She ran and hid in her bedroom. The click of the lock echoed. She hid inside, barely able to breathe. Mrs. Webb, seeing her daughter run away, quickly crawled to her own room and slammed the door shut. Kevin, seeing his grandmother and mother get hit, peed his pants. Without making a sound, he ran after his mother. The house fell into a strange silence. Only Emma and I remained, and the salty fish stew still steaming. I turned around. Emma was still sitting in her corner. She wasn't crying. She just looked at me with big eyes. In her look, the fear from before had gotten less. Now there was surprise and a strange curiosity. My heart hurt. I threw away the dirty spoon and went to the kitchen. I knew this garbage never ate with Sarah and Emma. Sarah had told me the old woman always hid the good food in a private fridge for herself. I opened the old fridge. Just as I expected, chicken, ham, yogurt, fruit. I took out a cooked chicken leg and yogurt. I also found the fresh rice Sarah had hidden for her daughter. I heated it up. I put a big portion of rice on a clean tray and shredded the chicken over it. I took it to Emma. Eat, little one. My voice got softer. Eat until you're full. From now on, nobody will take your food. Nobody will hit you. I sat down next to her. Emma looked at me, shaking. Then she looked at the plate. The smell of chicken was delicious. She was hungry. Carefully she took the spoon, ate one bite, and burst into tears. This time it wasn't fear. She sobbed as she ate. I didn't talk to make her feel better. I just sat beside her, gently rubbing her back in silence. Eat, little one. Eat it all. Mommy is here. Emma finished the whole plate of rice and drank the yogurt. When she was done, she looked at me. She waited for a moment, then got up and wrapped her arms around my neck. A weak hug, but enough to surprise me. Mommy, the girl whispered. Mommy's a little different today. I hugged her back. Mommy has just decided not to be afraid anymore. That night I slept hugging Emma. The girl slept deeply. How long had it been since she had eaten until she was full and felt safe? But I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, listening to the sounds coming from the next room. The husband hadn't come back yet. Those snores were the sounds of the rats in the other room. I was waiting. Sarah had told me the husband, Marcus. His work shift ended at 11 at night, and he always came home completely drunk. Exactly at 11:30 at night, I heard the noise of a motorcycle engine in the alley, followed by the screech of sharp braking. Then the sound of stumbling steps and a string of curse words. Damn it, I lost again. I lost everything. Open the door. Marcus the monster was back. Emma, who was sleeping in my arms, jumped and hid her head in my chest. Calmed her. Shoo, sleep. Mommy is here. Boom. The front door was kicked open. I hadn't locked it. A tall man stumbled in. He was way taller than me. He smelled of cheap alcohol, cigarettes, and sour sweat. His work clothes were messy and greasy. His eyes were red. This was the demon who had hurt my sister. This was the jerk who had slapped his own 3-year-old daughter. Sarah, where are you? He yelled. His tongue was thick from alcohol. Where did you hide? Not seeing anyone, he grabbed a glass from the table, a glass that I had washed and left clean, and smashed it against the bedroom wall. Crash! Glass pieces flew everywhere. Emma screamed and cried. I'm scared, Mommy. I'm scared. Daddy's here. I hugged her tight. Shoo, stay here. Mommy's going to see what's going on. I tucked her into bed and covered her with the blanket. Close your eyes. Cover your ears. Mommy will be done soon. I left the room. Marcus saw me. He smiled in a mean way. Ah, there you are. Where's the water? I'm thirsty. Get me some water quick. I stayed still 10 feet away from him without moving. Marcus frowned. His wife usually ran to get him water as soon as she heard his voice. Why was she so bold today? Are you deaf? He shouted. He looked around for something to throw. You're acting up today. I'm going to have to teach you a lesson again. He stumbled toward me. I lost money today and I'm in a bad mood, so you better obey. He raised his hand. A familiar slap. The same one he had used to control Sarah for the past 7 years. The same one he had hit Emma with the night before. I'm going to give you a beating so that... His thick, hairy arm swung toward me, but it stopped in midair. I had grabbed his wrist. Marcus was shocked. His eyes went wide. He tried to pull free, but he couldn't. His wrist was trapped like it was in a steel trap. He looked at me, then at my hand gripping his wrist. What are you doing? Let go of me. He started to realize something was wrong. He was drunk, but he wasn't stupid. How could the weak Sarah, the Sarah who wouldn't hurt a fly, have such strength? Let go of me, he yelled. And with his other hand, he threw a punch at my face. It was a drunk person's punch, but strong enough to break a normal person's teeth. I still held his wrist firmly. I simply tilted my head, and the punch just missed my ear. Marcus was even more confused. He had missed. Honey, my voice was strangely sweet. Tired from work. You witch. He sensed danger and tried to pull free, but I squeezed harder. Crack. A dry, short sound, the sound of a wrist bone coming out of place. Marcus let out a scream of pain that made him sober up instantly. My hand. What did you do to my hand? He fell down. I didn't let go of him. I lifted him up. Hitting has become a habit, hasn't it? You are not Sarah. Who are you? He hissed. I'm your wife, I smiled. The same one you loved to push under the water in the sink. I slapped him. Lat. This wasn't my sister's slap. It was my slap. A slap loaded with 10 years of held-back rage. The big man staggered and hit his head against the wall. He fell to the floor face down. His cheek was swollen and bleeding. He was confused. A woman had hit him. Usha. Help me! He shouted, terrified. Save me! Sarah has gone crazy. She's hitting me. In the 2 bedrooms, not a sound was heard. Mrs. Webb and Tasha heard him, but neither dared to open the door. They shook behind their doors. Despite the cries of their son and brother, cowardly rats. Marcus realized no one would come to save him. The pain, the shame, and the remaining alcohol turned into rage. The anger of a man whose pride had been stepped on. You dare to hit me. I'm going to kill you. He stumbled to his feet like a wounded beast. He came at me, trying to crush me with his big body. He opened his arms to grab me. Aside. Too slow. I didn't back away. I stepped forward. As he came at me, I ducked. I grabbed his hair with one hand and pulled down hard. With the other hand, I closed my fist and gave a powerful punch to his stomach. Boom. A dull thud sounded. Marcus folded over at the waist. His eyes rolled back. Spit and stomach acid came out of his mouth. He couldn't even scream anymore, only gasped with his mouth open. I was still holding his hair. This, I whispered into his ear, is for Emma. I lifted his head by the hair. And this, I slapped him again. Lat, is for my sister Sarah. I dragged him. He was fat, but now he was like a broken bag of potatoes. I dragged him to the bathroom. The narrow, dirty bathroom. You like pushing your wife's head underwater, huh? I filled the sink with water. I grabbed his hair and shoved his head under. Refreshing, honey. Marcus moved around like a pig being killed. The dirty sink water bubbled. I held his greasy hair firmly. I shoved his head into the water. I gave him 1 second to breathe, then shoved it back under. Refreshing, honey, I whispered. My voice was strangely sweet. Is the water cold? You loved dunking Sarah's head, didn't you? You heard her beg. You saw her panic. Gulp, gulp. Help! He could barely say a word before the water filled his mouth again. I yanked his head up. His face was white. His eyes rolled back. Snot, spit, and sewer water dripped off him. He was shaking. The drunkenness was gone, leaving only complete terror. He looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. The big man who a moment ago was threatening to kill me was now cowering and had peed himself. The smell of pee was terrible. I frowned. Gross. I let go of him. Marcus fell to the bathroom floor, coughing and throwing up. He threw up the alcohol, the food, even the bile. I looked down at him with cold disgust. I looked at him, then at my hands. For 10 years I used these hands to read and exercise. Now I'm using them to clean up trash. I left the man whimpering like a dying dog and walked out of the bathroom. I heard the door to Mrs. Webb and Tasha's room open slightly, then slam shut. They had seen everything clearly. The more they saw, the more afraid they would be. In the kitchen, I saw the pot with the salty fish stew that Mrs. Webb had thrown up in the afternoon. An idea came to mind. A dark but very satisfying idea. Sarah had told me that Mrs. Webb was the ringleader, the brains. Marcus was just the muscle. To stop a dog from biting, you have to break its teeth. But for a dog to stop being loyal to its master, you have to make it fear and hate its master. I looked around the house. In a dirty corner that Sarah called the laundry area, I found a plastic tub full of sour-smelling dirty laundry. Sarah hadn't washed their clothes since yesterday. On top of everything were Mrs. Webb's old underwear. A smile spread across my face. I turned the stove back on, put water in a large pot. With a stick, I grabbed the underwear and put them in the pot. I set them to boil, bubbling hard. A horrible smell began to rise, worse than the sewer. Meanwhile, Marcus had crawled out of the bathroom. He dragged himself to the door of Mrs. Webb's room. Mom, help me. That one is crazy. Mom. The door stayed closed. Inside, Mrs. Webb was shaking. Go away. Go away. Don't come near me. If you're crazy, die alone. Marcus froze. His mother, the mother who had always protected him, the mother who had encouraged him to hit his wife, was now leaving him alone. He turned to me. He saw me stirring a special soup. He didn't understand what I was doing. I poured a bowl of soup from the pot, a thick yellowish soup. I placed the bowl in front of Marcus. Drink. He looked at it blankly. What is this? Medicine. I said, a medicine to cure husbands who hit their wives. A medicine to cure ungrateful sons. A medicine to cure the sickness of hitting your wife because your mother tells you to. Drink, honey. He looked at the bowl and sniffed it. His face went white as paper. He understood. No. Well, you're a demon. He crawled backward. A demon. I laughed. Compared to dunking a woman's head in water, slapping a 3-year-old child, and forcing someone to eat garbage, this is very kind. I grabbed his hair and yanked his head back. I told you, I growled. This house has to have rules. First rule, you get what you give. Your mother planted the seed, so you, her son, have to eat the fruit. Drink. I forced his mouth open and poured the awful soup down his throat. He squirmed and tried to throw up, but I held him firmly. He had to swallow sip by sip. The door to Mrs. Webb's room flew open. She stood there. She saw her underwear in the pot. She saw her son drinking the water they had been boiled in. Her eyes rolled back. My God, you. Marcus threw up hard, this time up to the bile. Mrs. Webb looked at her son, then at me. There was no more meanness in her, only terror. She stumbled and fainted. Perfect. One down. I looked at Marcus, who was shaking. See, your mother fainted. Now get lost in your room. If I hear a single sound from you tonight, I'll make you drink the water from that whole tub of dirty laundry. Marcus, with his last strength born of terror, crawled to his bedroom. The house was finally silent. The next morning the house was silent like a grave. I got up early and gave Emma a bath. I took delicious food from Mrs. Webb's fridge and made a big breakfast for the two of us. Cooked beef, fried eggs. Emma ate happily. The light was starting to come back to her eyes. From the 2 bedrooms no sound came out. Mrs. Webb, Tasha, and Marcus, the 3 demons of yesterday like 3 dead rats, didn't even dare to peek out. I didn't care. I fed Emma and put on cartoons for her. Around 9 in the morning, there was a loud and firm knock at the door. "Who is it?" asked. "Police." "Open the door." Smiled. "So fast." "Open the door." 2 police officers, one older and one younger, stood in front of me. They wore serious faces. The young officer looked at me. I still had Sarah's old bruises. "Are you Marcus Webb's wife, Sarah?" "Yes, I am. We got a complaint from Marcus. He says you violently attacked him." Just then Marcus crawled out of the room. He looked pathetic. His face swollen, one cheek bruised, and his wrist wrapped up. He walked with a limp, acting like he was in great pain. Seeing the police, he shouted like he had seen a savior. "Here, officers, look. She hit me." He pointed to his face. She. He stopped, unable to tell the shameful story of the night before. "She's crazy. She's the sister of that crazy woman who was in the psychiatric hospital. The madness rubbed off on her. Arrest her. Lock her up." Mrs. Webb and Tasha also poked their heads out quietly to support the story. "It's true, officer. She hit her husband, her mother-in-law, and her sister-in-law." Tasha pointed to her still swollen cheek. The older officer frowned. He looked back and forth at the big Marcus and at me, small and thin but strong-looking. "Mrs. Webb," he asked in a serious voice, "is what these people are saying true? Did you attack them?" I didn't deny it. "Yes, officer," I said in a quiet, sorry voice. "I attacked them." The eyes of Marcus and the 2 women shone. "See, she admitted it. Arrest her." But I continued. "I did it to protect myself. My husband, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law hit me." "Lie!" Marcus shouted. "When did I ever hit you?" I looked at the older officer. "Officer," he said, "my husband is accusing me of attacking him. May I ask what an attack is?" The young officer snapped. "She left her husband's face looking like that and says it's not an attack." "Yes," I nodded. "Then if a husband hits his wife until she's covered in bruises, chokes her in water, and makes her face swell, can that also be called an attack?" The older officer paused. He was beginning to understand the situation. "You mean?" "I mean this." I walked into the room and took out a stack of papers. It was what Sarah had gathered in her panic. She had brought it to the hospital yesterday and I had kept it. I put it on the table. "This is my medical report from 3 months ago. Broken ribs. The doctor said it was from a strong impact." Took out a photo. "This is my face from 2 months ago. Broken nose. My husband said I fell on my own." I took out a pile of injury reports. "These are bruises on my arms, on my back. Belt marks, scratches. There's a whole lot, officers. I've been living here for 7 years. 7 years of getting beaten. Who do I complain to? If I tell the neighbors, they say it's a couple's fight. And if I go to the police station, the officers tell me to work it out between ourselves." I looked Marcus directly in the eyes. He was shaking. I rolled up my sleeve and showed Sarah's old bruises. "Look, this injury is from 2 days ago. My husband hit my daughter in the face, and when I tried to stop him, he dragged me into the bathroom and choked me in water. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law helped him hold me down." The 2 officers were shocked. They looked at me, then at those 3 demons. "I put up with it for 7 years, I said. My voice shook with anger. I was playing Sarah's role. "Yesterday my husband came home drunk, kicked the door, threw things, and tried to hit me and my daughter. I couldn't take it anymore. And without realizing it, I fought back." I looked at Marcus. "I have hit my husband once, but he has hit me thousands of times. I ask you, officers." I turned to the 2 police. "If a husband can hit his wife and not be arrested, Isn't it also a home matter for a wife to hit her husband? The older officer sighed. He had dealt with too many cases like this. He turned to Marcus. His voice became sharp. Marcus, look at you. How big you are, and your wife is so small. You leave her face like this. And now that she's hit you back, you call us to arrest her. But she... Marcus couldn't speak. But nothing. The older officer slammed the table. With this stack of reports, if I open a case, you're the one who's going to be arrested. Domestic violence, serious assault. Do you want to go to jail? Marcus's face turned gray. I'm warning this family. The officer pointed at the three. Live like decent people. Don't make us come back here. Next time there won't just be a warning. He turned to me and said in a softer voice, Mrs. Webb, if that man hits you again, come directly to the police station with these reports. We'll take care of it. Understood. Thank you, officer. I bowed my head and cried. The two police officers left. Marcus, Mrs. Webb, and Tasha stood there, stunned. They looked at me. Now there was a mix of fear and hate in their eyes. They realized the law was not on their side. And I knew they wouldn't stop. They would use other methods. Marcus had lost in a shameful way. Throughout that day, the house returned to silence, but it was not the silence of a grave. It was the calm before the storm. I heard the whispers, the mumbles, and the quiet curses coming from Mrs. Webb's room. The three of them, a limping Marcus, a swollen-faced Tasha, and a shocked Mrs. Webb, were planning something. I could smell their plan in the air. I knew without needing to hear it what they were thinking. They couldn't beat me by force. They couldn't use the police. So what method would they use? Of course they would use my crazy label. That one is crazy, I heard Mrs. Webb's voice. It's not Sarah. It's Maya, the crazy one from the hospital. She escaped. She's pretending to be her sister. Marcus nodded. It's true. Sarah is weak as a snail. How could she have that strength? How could she do something like that? It has to be her crazy sister. Shook. My God, no wonder she was so evil. She did that to my brother. Shut up, Mrs. Webb snapped. Don't mention that again. If the neighbors find out, it'll shame us. And now what do we do, Mom? Marcus asked. We can't live with a crazy woman. She could kill us all. Mrs. Webb was silent for a moment. I heard her footsteps as she walked back and forth. Then she lowered her voice. What's crazy must return to its place. The plan began to form in that old wicked head. We can't catch her ourselves, but the psychiatric hospital can, she said. But we can't just call an ambulance to take her away. She's strong as a bull and she'll fight back. And what if she tells them everything? We have to weaken her. Weaken her. Tasha's voice sounded sharp. Something like sleeping pills, like in the soap operas. In the soup. Exactly. Mrs. Webb clapped her hands. We give her a large dose of sleeping pills so she sleeps like a log. And then we tie her up tightly. Afterward, we call Crestwood State Hospital and report that patient Maya has escaped. She's at our house and we've caught her. They'll come get her right away. But what if she doesn't drink it? Marcus worried. She hasn't eaten with us since yesterday. She won't eat, but her daughter will. Mrs. Webb smiled in a mean way. Tonight we'll pretend to make peace. Hey, I will say sorry to her. I'll make a delicious dinner. I'll tell her that Mommy was wrong, that we're a family again. She's smart. She won't believe it, Tasha said. Even if she doesn't believe it, she'll have to pretend she does, Mrs. Webb said. And we'll put the drug in a separate soup. Chicken soup. We'll tell her we made it for our granddaughter Emma to make her strong. Do you think she won't give it to her daughter? If she doesn't eat it, she'll have to eat it herself. She won't be able to refuse her mother-in-law's kindness. My heart stopped for a second. Damn animals. Daring to use Emma. That night was just as I expected. A strangely big dinner. Roast chicken, fried food. Marcus and Tasha, with their bruised faces, sat in silence. Mrs. Webb had changed completely. Smiling, she said, Sarah, come sit and eat. She served me a chicken leg. What happened yesterday was my fault. Sorry. Mold. Please forgive me. Tasha also said in a tiny voice. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry too. Please forgive me. Seeing the circus in front of me, I smiled too. Yes, mother-in-law. Sister-in-law, I don't hold it against you either. We are family. Marcus, seeing me being nice, breathed out in relief. Eat, Mrs. Webb said. Oh, in the afternoon I made some chicken soup. It's delicious. I made it especially for Emma. The little girl is too thin lately. She brought a small bowl of steaming soup. She placed it in front of me and Emma. You give it to the child. Emma's eyes lit up when she saw the soup. I looked at Mrs. Webb. She was smiling, but her eyes were not. Those eyes were staring hard, waiting. I took a spoonful of soup. It looks so good. Thank you, mother-in-law. I raised the spoon. Emma opened her mouth, waiting. Stop. Ouch, it's hot. Smiled. Mommy will cool it down by blowing on it. I blew, and then I faked a mistake. Splat. The bowl of hot soup spilled onto the floor. Oh no, I said, acting surprised. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry. How clumsy of me. I spilled all that rich soup you made. Emma started crying from sadness. The three demons' faces changed in an instant, from hope to disappointment and then to extreme rage. Marcus squeezed his fists under the table, but they couldn't do anything. No problem, Mrs. Webb forced a twisted smile. If it spilled, it spilled. Hey, I'll make another one for you. No need, mother-in-law, I said quickly. I'm full with the food already. You eat, and you, sister-in-law, and you, honey. A lot. Eat a lot and get your strength up. The dinner ended. Their first plan had failed. I knew they wouldn't give up. They would try another way. They had lost patience. Since they couldn't trick me with poison, they decided to use force. That night I went to bed hugging Emma. I didn't sleep. I never sleep deeply. My 10 years at the hospital taught me to be alert all the time. In the middle of the night, I heard a creak, soft, sneaky footsteps. I closed my eyes and pretended to be sound asleep. I breathed evenly. The door to my room opened slightly without a sound. 3 shadows: Marcus, Mrs. Webb, and Tasha. Marcus was in front. In his hands, even though both were wrapped up, he held a thick rope, a rope for tying boxes. Tasha carried tape, and Mrs. Webb carried a towel, probably to cover my mouth. They came to the bed quietly. They thought I was asleep. They thought I was still the weak Sarah. She's sound asleep, Marcus whispered. Now all 3 jumped. Marcus threw the rope. Mrs. Webb ran to cover my mouth, and Tasha to hold my legs. Too slow. The second the rope touched the blanket, I sat up. Not only did I sit up, I jumped like a wild cat. I didn't go for Marcus. He was big but useless. I went for the weakest one, Tasha. I gave her a double kick to the stomach. Boom. Ah! The fat Tasha was thrown backward and hit the wall. She couldn't even scream. She fell down with her mouth open. Mrs. Webb froze. The towel fell from her hands. Marcus also stopped. In just 1 second, I grabbed the cheap lamp from the nightstand. I smashed it hard on Marcus's head. Crash! Marcus yelled and covered his head. Blood began to pour. He didn't expect me to defend myself with such violence. You. While he was shocked, I was already behind Mrs. Webb. I wrapped my arm around her neck, using her as a shield. Marcus! I screamed. One more step and I'll break your mother's neck. Marcus froze. Blood ran down his face. He looked at me and at his mother squirming in my arms. Emma woke up then and burst into terrified tears. Silence! I screamed. Everybody shut up in this house. Marcus was terrified. No. Don't touch my mother. What do you want? What do I want? I laughed. What were you going to do with the rope? Tie me up. I dragged Mrs. Webb. I picked up the rope from the floor. Good idea. I shoved Mrs. Webb hard toward Marcus. Go. She fell into her son's arms. I walked closer. Marcus, covering his head and holding his mother, backed away. He was afraid of me. You picked up the rope. You like playing hide and seek. Okay, I'll play with you. Tasha finally let out a sound. Help! Help! Shut up! He yelled. Everyone, go to the living room right now. I pushed them like a flock of ducks. The big man, the fat sister-in-law, the wicked mother-in-law. All three, terrified, were led to the living room by one small, thin woman. Sit down, I pointed to the couch. They sat down, shaking. Marcus, I called him. Yes, yes, he shook like jelly. You are my husband, right? A husband should sleep with his wife. Smiled. Go into the bedroom. He didn't understand. But just go in. I pushed Marcus toward our bedroom. Emma was crying in bed. Little one, come outside. I picked her up and carried her to the living room. Watch TV with Grandma and Auntie. Don't come in here. I left her outside. I slammed the bedroom door shut and locked it from the inside. Now it was just Marcus and me. He backed away. What are you going to do to me? The same thing you were going to do to me. I raised the rope and jumped at him. Marcus tried to resist, but he was wounded in the head. He was confused, and the hand he hurt yesterday still hurt. I threw him onto the bed. I used the methods I learned at the hospital to hold down patients having attacks. In 5 minutes, Marcus was tied hand and foot. His hands and feet were firmly tied to the 4 corners of the bed. He couldn't move. He could only look at me with wide eyes. My sister Sarah says, I whispered into his ear, that you like to use the belt? That you like rough play? I looked around the room and found his leather belt. No. Well, please. Sorry. I beg you. The violent man started crying and begging. I didn't care. I grabbed a rag and stuffed it into his mouth. Shoo, quiet. The show is about to begin. I left Marcus tied hand and foot on the bed with a rag in his mouth that only let him make a desperate sound. I turned off the light. The room went dark. I opened the door and walked out. In the living room, Mrs. Webb and Tasha were huddled on the couch. The 2 wicked women now looked pathetic. Seeing me come out, both jumped. And Marcus. Mrs. Webb stammered. What did you do to him? I put on a terrified face. Daughter, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, something terrible has happened. Marcus, I tricked him and tied him to the bed. The 2 women froze. I used all my strength. I tricked him to let me tie him up. But he's so strong he's about to break the ropes. I put on a great performance. I pretended to be scared. If he breaks free, he'll kill me. He'll kill us all. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law. Mrs. Webb and Tasha looked at each other. They weren't stupid. They had doubts. Is that true? Tasha asked suspiciously. You really tied him up? He nodded. But I can't hold him. Come and help me. He insulted me and he insulted you too. He said when he breaks free, he'll beat us all to death. He's crazy. The doubt in the 2 women's eyes slowly turned into a wicked look. They hated me, but they were also afraid of Marcus. And they hated the shame he had put them through. If Marcus was truly tied up, this was their chance. A chance to let out their anger, to teach him and me a lesson. They wouldn't think Marcus was tied up and go in to hit him. Or they could think that the one tied up was me. Had to make sure. I tied him up, but he's too strong, I repeated. Tied up. Mrs. Webb stood up. You mean tied to the bed? Yes. Hold him tight, she said. Her eyes sparkled. I'm going to teach him a lesson. How dare that stupid fool scare his own mother? It turns out she also hated her useless son Marcus, who had brought her shame. She wanted to take the chance to control him again. No, this story isn't funny. Have to change it. I have to make them think that the one in bed is me. I shook my head. No, it's not like that. I tricked him, but he tied me up. I said the opposite. What? The 2 women were confused. I screamed. Marcus is so strong. He grabbed me and tied me to the bed. He wants to kill me. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, help me. He just hit his head and he's not thinking right. Now he's looking for a knife. Yes, this story is more believable. Mrs. Webb and Tasha's faces lit up. The daughter-in-law tied up. The crazy son looking for a knife. This was a chance fallen from the sky. She's tied up. Tasha sneered. Great. Very good. Where is she tied? Mrs. Webb asked. Her hands shook with excitement. In the bedroom, very tight. I can't move. Sub. Mom. Tasha turned to Mrs. Webb. It's our chance. Let's give that monster a beating to knock the attitude out of her. Yes, Mrs. Webb nodded. She dares to hit me and make my son drink that garbage. She ground her teeth. Get a stick. Today I'm killing her with a beating. Tasha ran to the kitchen and brought a hard wooden broom handle. Mrs. Webb grabbed a bamboo stick she used for hanging clothes. The room is dark, I said, shaking. Better in the dark, Tasha said happily. That way we hit her without her knowing who did it. The two women, armed and thirsty for blood, headed for the bedroom. I backed away and hid in a corner. I grabbed my cell phone. I started video recording. The red light came on. Open the door, Mrs. Webb ordered. I opened the door, shaking. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, help me, I moaned. Help you? Ask for help in hell. The two women ran into the dark room. They only saw the shape of a person tied up in bed, moving and making a muffled sound. They thought it was me. Die, you crazy. Tasha was the first to act. She raised the broom handle and began to hit the figure on the bed with all her strength without mercy. Boom, boom, boom. You dare to hit me. You dare to slap me. Mrs. Webb was not far behind. With a bamboo stick, she hit his legs and sides. I'm going to beat that attitude out of you so you know who's boss in this house. Boom. Lat. Boom. The sound of the sticks against the flesh. The sound of bones. I think I heard the sound of bones breaking. Marcus, gagged, couldn't scream. He could only make a choke sound. Ugh, ugh. But the more he groaned, the more the two women believed it was me suffering, and the more they hurt him. Scream. Scream louder. I'll show you how to shut up. I was standing at the door recording clearly. When I had been recording for about 5 minutes, I saw that Marcus was no longer moving. He stayed still. I decided that was enough. I walked in and turned on the light. The cold white light flooded the room. Mrs. Webb and Tasha stopped, sticks in hand. They blinked and saw that the person tied up in bed, bloody and gagged, was Marcus. Their son, their brother. Ah! Tasha was the first to scream. She dropped the stick and backed away, her face white as paper. Mrs. Webb was shocked. She looked at Marcus, then at me. I was standing at the door with the phone in my hand, the red recording light still blinking. You hit well, mother-in-law, I smiled. Hit harder. I have it all recorded. You and your sister-in-law just did a serious crime with weapons against your own son and brother. I held up the phone. With this video I can say that Marcus kidnapped me and that you trying to rescue me hit the wrong person. Will the police believe that? Mrs. Webb staggered and fell down. This time she didn't faint. She peed herself. The room filled with the smell of Mrs. Webb's pee, Marcus's groans on the bed, and Tasha's terrified breathing. With complete calm I put the phone back in my pocket. I patted Tasha's white cheek. Sister-in-law, if you're done hitting now, you should call an ambulance for the victim. I think you broke your brother's bones. Tasha jumped and stammered. You ordered us. You set a trap for us. I set a trap for you. I laughed. It's true. I tied Marcus up, but I asked you for help to come hold him down. I didn't know you would bring sticks and give him a group beating. I didn't order you to hit him. You did it by yourselves and with great excitement. I turned to Mrs. Webb. She was still on the floor. Mother-in-law, so now what? Do we call the police first or the doctors? I didn't wait for her answer and took out my phone. First I called the police. Hello, police station. This is Sarah Webb from East Side, number X Street. I'm calling to report an emergency. A serious attack has just happened in my house. The victim is my husband Marcus, and the attackers are his own mother and sister, Mrs. Webb and Tasha. They hit him with sticks and I think they broke his bones. Come quickly. I'm afraid they'll kill him. I hung up, leaving the two women shocked. And then I called the doctors. Hello, emergency. I need an ambulance at this address. The patient suffered a group beating. I think broken ribs and a head injury. When I finished the call, I dragged a chair to the center of the living room, right in front of the bedroom door, and sat down. I crossed my arms and waited. Mrs. Webb finally reacted. She realized what she had done and started screaming. Crazy! Demon! You ruined my family. She tried to jump at me. I simply held up the phone. Hit me more, mother-in-law. Hit me too and make it a combo. That way, when the police come, they'll take all of you together. She stopped. Tasha staggered up, ran to the room, and shook Marcus. Brother, wake up. Don't scare me. Sirens sounded. A police car and an ambulance arrived almost at the same time. The narrow alley was lit up with blue and red lights in the middle of the night. The neighbors, used to the screams from this house, peeked out curiously. The same two police officers from yesterday appeared again, this time with two security agents. Who is Mrs. Webb? The older officer asked seriously. That's me, I stepped forward. What happened? Another fight. No, I shook my head. It wasn't me. They fought among themselves. The doctors rushed in with a stretcher. When they shined their flashlights on Marcus, they too were shocked. The big man was now a bloody, crumpled ball, his clothes messy and still tied up. What happened here? The young officer said, horrified. Who tied this man up? I did, I said calmly. He tried to hit me, so I tied him up. It was self-defense. And after tying him up, what did you do? Nothing, I said. I simply went out to ask my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law for help. I told them Marcus was tied up and to come help me. Lie! Tasha shouted from the room. You tricked us. You said you were tied up. Shrugged. She can say whatever she wants now. I have proof. Marcus. At that moment, after an officer cut the ropes with a knife, Marcus whispered weakly. My side hurts. Mum. Tasha. He pointed at the two women with his finger and fainted. The doctors quickly moved him to the vehicle. One of them told the police. He's in serious condition. He has at least 2 broken ribs and a head injury. The older officer turned around. Mrs. Webb, Miss Tasha, what happened here? She tricked us, Mrs. Webb started to cry. She's a crazy woman. She escaped from the hospital. She tricked us into hitting my son. Officer, she is the one who made us do it. Yes, I nodded. I am crazy. Are you going to believe me, or would you prefer to see this? I turned on my phone and played the video. The 4 police officers and the security agents crowded around to watch. They saw the dark room clearly. They heard my moan. Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, help me. And they also heard the 2 women's curses. Die, you crazy. You dare to hit me? I'll show you how to shut up. They clearly saw Tasha hitting without mercy with the broom handle, and Mrs. Webb hitting without compassion with the bamboo stick. The older officer's face went from serious to gray. He had been doing this for decades, but such a cruel scene of a mother and sister hitting their own son and brother was beyond his imagination. He turned off the video. Enough. He turned to the 2 women with a face cold as ice. Mrs. Webb, Miss Tasha, we have the video as evidence. We also have the testimony of the victim, Marcus. Both of you will have to come with us to the station. I'm not going. I'm innocent. She tricked me, Tasha squirmed. Whether you're innocent or not, you will say that at the station. The young officer pulled out the handcuffs. Officers, help me. Mrs. Webb, seeing the handcuffs, went white and fainted. Really fainted. No problem. The doctors are right there, the older officer said. Put her in the ambulance and wake her up. When she wakes up, bring her to the station. It was chaos. Tasha was taken away while screaming and cursing, making noise throughout the alley. Mrs. Webb was taken away on a stretcher like a sack of potatoes. The neighbors whispered and watched. My God! At the Webb's house, the mother and daughter hit the son. How cruel! And the daughter-in-law was so good. Karma is karma. I stood at the door watching them with Emma in my arms. The little girl had fallen asleep at some point. I smiled. Justice sometimes works quite well. The next morning, the house was strangely silent. Marcus in the hospital, Mrs. Webb and Tasha in jail. According to news from the station, the serious attack charge with clear evidence meant the two women would be held for at least 7 days for investigation. They could only get out if the victim, Marcus, dropped the charges. But right now, Marcus probably preferred to be in the hospital than to come home. So in this hellish house, only Emma, Kevin, and I remained. The boy was sleeping in his mother's room. In last night's chaos, no one had worried about him. He woke up in the morning and saw that neither his grandmother, his mother, nor his uncle Marcus were there. He came out and saw me making breakfast for Emma. "Where's my mom?" he asked with his usual meanness. "And Grandma? Why are you making fried eggs? Those are mine." He tried to jump at the table. Emma, seeing Kevin, automatically shrank back and hugged her plate. I put down the frying pan, turned around, and stood in front of Kevin. "Good morning, Kevin," I said calmly. "Get away." "Where's my mom?" he yelled. "You hit my mom. I'll tell Grandma. Grandma will beat you up." I bent down to his level. Kevin listened to me carefully. I no longer called him nephew, but used a firmer tone. "The police took your mother and your grandmother away." Kevin stopped. "Lie." "I don't lie," I looked him right in the eyes. "Your mother and your grandmother did something bad. They took sticks and hit your uncle Marcus until they broke his bones. That's why the police came, put handcuffs on them and took them away. Now they have to be in jail." Kevin's mean look changed into confusion and then into fear. No matter how spoiled a child is, without adult protection, he is very weak. "No. You're lying. My mom and grandma." He started to whimper. "They are in jail because they did something bad, just like you." "Me? What did I do wrong?" he yelled, his neck getting red. "You hurt Emma," I said, my voice still calm. "You took her toys. You pushed her. You spit on her food. You pulled her hair too, didn't you?" Kevin backed away. He was scared. He didn't understand how I knew. "You also did wrong because you copied the adults. You saw your grandmother, your mother, and your uncle hurt Sarah and Emma. And you thought you also had the right to hurt Emma." Pointed to Emma. "But look, what did Emma do wrong to you? Emma is smaller and weaker than you. Why did you hit her?" Kevin went silent and looked down. "Your mother and your grandmother are in jail for doing bad things. Do you want them to take you away too? Do you want to go to jail?" "No. No." He shook his head, terrified. "No, I don't." "Good." I stood up. "Then starting today, you are going to learn again how to be a person." I led him in front of Emma. Emma was still afraid. "Say sorry to Emma," I ordered. Kevin hesitated. "Years of bad habits don't get fixed in an instant." I frowned. "Or do you want me to call yesterday's police again?" He hurried to say, looking at Emma with a tiny voice. "I'm sorry." "Who are you saying sorry to? Speak clearly." I'm sorry, Emma. It was still bad." I shook my head. "You are the older cousin and Emma is the little one. But in this house, Sarah and Emma have suffered many wrongs, and Emma has been very afraid. Starting today, you will call Emma, Princess Emma." "What?" Kevin was confused. "Princess Emma, and you are Knight Kevin. What is a knight's job?" Kevin stammered. "To protect." "Exactly. To protect the princess," I said. "Come on, Knight Kevin. Say sorry to Princess Emma for scaring her yesterday." Kevin, although he feared me, seemed to find this game of princess and knight quite cool. He took a deep breath. Princess Emma, Knight Kevin says sorry to Her Majesty. Emma was surprised. She looked at Kevin and then burst into laughter. A clear, crystal laugh that echoed in this house for the first time. Kevin, seeing the princess laugh, felt a little less scared. Good, I nodded. Now, Knight Kevin, grab a plate and have breakfast. When you're done, you'll play together. The knight must let the princess have his toys. Understood? Yes. Kevin obediently grabbed a plate. I served him food. As he ate, he kept looking at Emma. I know it's not easy to change a child, but at least I had planted a seed. The seed of respect and fear. Sometimes before teaching someone kindness, you first have to make them feel fear. A week passed. The house for the first time had the feeling of a home. I made Kevin clean his own room. I made decent meals. Emma laughed and talked again. She and Kevin could play together under my watch. Kevin, the spoiled child, now knew to let the princess have his toys. On the 8th day, Marcus was released from the hospital. He came home limping with a bandage on his head, a wrap on his ribs, and his arm in a sling. He returned in silence. Seeing me reading in the living room, he jumped and froze at the door, not daring to enter. "Come in, honey," I said without looking up from the book. "What are you afraid of? It's your house." Marcus entered shaking, looked around. The house was spotless. His daughter Emma, watching TV, had gained weight and had better color. His nephew Kevin was coloring beside her. "Princess Knight Kevin is hungry," Kevin said. "Wait a bit. Her Majesty is finishing watching this cartoon," Emma responded cheerfully. Marcus's eyes went wide. He didn't understand what was going on. He limped to his room and closed the door. He didn't dare to bother me. He now knew he was the most useless creature in the house. Beaten by me, beaten by his mother and sister. He could no longer hold his head up. 2 days later, after finishing the 7 days of jail time, Mrs. Webb and Tasha were released. Not because they were innocent. They were released because Marcus dropped the charges. He was afraid. Afraid of having to live alone with me if his mother and sister went to prison. He thought it was better to bring back those 2 beasts than to face me, the demon. The 2 women returned looking pathetic. 7 days in jail had been hell for them, who had never known hardship. Their hair was greasy. Their clothes smelled bad. Their meanness and wickedness were gone, leaving only tiredness, fear, and hidden hate. They saw me and stayed silent. They saw the cowering Marcus and also stayed silent. No one spoke to each other. This family was now completely broken. That night I was tucking Emma into bed. The door to my room opened and Marcus, Mrs. Webb, and Tasha entered, limping. I put a finger to my lips and said, "Shoo, the child is sleeping." I went out to the living room and sat down in a chair. "What's the matter?" Marcus, Mrs. Webb, and Tasha looked at each other. And then something happened that I never would have expected. Mrs. Webb, that wicked mother-in-law, got on her knees. "Mom!" Marcus and Tasha said, stunned. "Shut up," she snapped. She raised her head and looked at me. Her cloudy eyes were now filled with tiredness, shame, and begging. "Sarah or Maya," she said in a rough voice. "I don't care who you are. Beg you. Please, I'm begging you." Tasha, seeing her mother kneeling, burst into tears and knelt too. "Sister-in-law, I beg you, please save this family." Marcus, with his broken ribs, couldn't kneel, but he bent as much as he could. "Forgive me. I'll give you a divorce. Please leave. We'll give you whatever you want, but please go away." The entire family that had hurt my sister for 7 years was now begging me on their knees to disappear from their lives. Seeing them, I felt more emptiness than satisfaction. "All right," I said. "We will divorce." Hearing the word divorce, the 3 of them sighed with relief. Like death row prisoners getting a pardon, Mrs. Webb quickly said, Yes, divorce. Tomorrow we'll arrange the papers. You pack your bags and go." "I should go." I raised an eyebrow. "Mother-in-law, do you think this is that simple?" I stood up and started walking. My sister Sarah married into this house 7 years ago. 7 years working like a mule. 7 years getting beatings and insults. Her daughter Emma at 3 years old has been slapped, starved and hurt. And now you think a simple divorce ends everything. So what do you want? Marcus asked, shaking. Money. It's money, I said firmly. Let's end this cleanly with money. We are no longer family. I held up 3 fingers. First, child support. Emma is 3 years old and Sarah will raise her until she's 18. That's 15 years left. You are the father. You have a responsibility. How much? Marcus asked in a thin voice. Sarah doesn't ask for much. $2,500 a month for food, school, and doctor visits. $2,500 a month for 12 months over 15 years is $450,000. Let's make it $350,000 paid all at once. $350,000. Tasha screamed. You're a thief. Where are we going to get that money? I ignored her and raised 2 more fingers. Second, marriage property. When they married, my parents gave Sarah $100,000. Sarah gave all of it to you, mother-in-law, to pay the house payment. Now that they're divorcing, that money has to be returned, plus $30,000 my sister earned working for 7 years. That makes a total of $130,000. Better kill us, Mrs. Webb shouted. We don't have that much money in this house. You're trapping us. Trapping you. I smiled coldly. Compared to what you did to Sarah, this is very kind. I raised another finger. And finally, third, payment for emotional damage. 7 years of attacking, choking, broken bones, inhuman insults. The price of that pain. I looked Mrs. Webb right in the eyes. $140,000, I finished. Child support of $350,000. House money return of $130,000. Payment for emotional damage of $140,000. Total, $620,000. And the divorce papers signed by Marcus. If you give me all that, Emma and I will disappear from this house. $620,000. The 3 of them looked like they had been shocked. You're crazy. Better kill us, Marcus yelled. I'd rather go to jail. We don't have the money. You don't have the money. I laughed. You don't have money for the daughter-in-law and the granddaughter. But you do have money hidden for the daughter, right, mother-in-law? Mrs. Webb jumped. What? What are you saying? You don't understand me. I moved closer to her. When your husband died in a work accident, he got insurance money from the company, right? A very large amount. $900,000. Correct. Marcus and Tasha looked at Mrs. Webb, stunned. Mom, Tasha stammered. $900,000. What money? Mrs. Webb had money. Marcus was also confused. Shut up. Shut up, everyone. Mrs. Webb was terrified. She's talking nonsense. She's making it up. Making it up. I laughed. You have it hidden very well. You can't even put it in the bank for fear your children will find out. You wrapped it in 7 layers of plastic, put it in a jar, and hid it in the kitchen shed among the firewood. Right. Mrs. Webb's face turned white as paper. Marcus and Tasha didn't say anything. They quietly got up, looked at each other, and ran toward the kitchen shed. I heard banging and things falling. Few minutes later, Tasha came down. In her hands, a jar covered in dirt. Shaking, she emptied it onto the floor. Money. Lots of money. Stacks of $500 bills carefully wrapped in plastic. Mom, Tasha shook. Money. It's real money. Marcus looked at the pile of money, then at Mrs. Webb. Mom, you hid the money from me. You let me get deep into debt. You let me lose money gambling while you had $900,000. Tasha, Mrs. Webb yelled. I was saving it for you too. Marcus is a gambling addict. If I gave it to him, he would spend it all. You old witch. Marcus yelled angrily. Lat. Tasha slapped Marcus. Shut up. And what if Mom gave it to me? What are you, a wife beater? You dare to hit me. Marcus also went crazy. I'm going to beat you up, you. The two of them jumped at each other, hitting, scratching, and cursing. Mrs. Webb fell down, crying. Oh, my family is ruined. My children are fighting over money. I watched the second part of the family drama. This time it was over money. Over. Cough. Ahem. The three of them stopped. I pointed to the pile of money. $620,000. I give you 3 days. Get the money ready and the divorce papers. Otherwise. I held up my phone. This video of the mother-in-law and the sister-in-law hitting Marcus, and this happy family story, I will spread it throughout the neighborhood, the city council, and the online newspapers. The choice is yours. 3 days later, I received $620,000 in cash, neatly stored in a suitcase, and the divorce papers signed by Marcus. The three of them had faces full of bruises. It seemed the war for the rest of the money after my share of the $900,000 had been very intense in the last 3 days. Here is the money and here are the papers, Mrs. Webb said in a tired voice. Now go disappear from our sight. Without a word, I counted the money and kept the papers. I returned to the room and collected Emma's things, which I had already prepared the day before. Small suitcase. Emma. I picked the girl up in my arms. Say goodbye to this place. We're going to find Mommy. Emma, though confused, was happy. She hugged me tightly. Yes, let's go find Mommy, Sarah. I picked up Emma and the suitcase with the money and walked out of that hellish house. I didn't look back even once. Called a taxi. Destination, Crestwood State Hospital. I entered. The same familiar smell of cleaning liquid. But today I was no longer the crazy one who had escaped. I was a free woman. I headed for my cell. No, Sarah's cell. But I saw a strange scene. In the common room where I used to spend hours sitting without moving, today there were flowers and a cake. The hospital director and several nurses surrounded a person. It was Sarah. She was wearing the patient clothes, but her face was bright. She was truly smiling. She was talking to people and saying thank you. Congratulations, Maya. The director shook my sister's hand. It's incredible. A miraculous recovery. Sarah saw me and ran to hug me and Emma. Maya, you're back. Emma, my daughter. She kissed the girl. Froze. Sister, what's going on? The director saw me. Ah, you must be Sarah, Maya's twin sister. You are identical. You've come to pick up your sister. Very good. He turned to me proud. I have wonderful news. Your sister Maya is completely cured. Cured? I stammered. Yes, the doctor nodded. Last week we had the regular psychological test and Maya. No, Sarah participated and passed it with an excellent score. All her psychological numbers are stable. She is completely normal. We watched her for 1 more week. She communicates well and her emotions are stable. She is no longer crazy. We are processing her release today. I looked at Sarah. She winked at me. Understood. Sarah, my sister, was never crazy. She was just held down by fear. While I learned to control my anger in here for 10 years, she learned to swallow her fear out there. When she entered here into my safe cell and stopped getting beatings and insults, she was able to be herself. And when she faced the psychological test as a completely normal person, she passed it without problems. She had cured my name, Maya. Yes, yes, I said, holding my emotion. I've come to pick up my sister. The doctor signed the last paper and politely handed it to my sister. Here is the release certificate. Starting today, Maya is completely free. Sarah took the paper, looked at me, and we laughed together. That paper didn't just give Maya her freedom. It gave freedom to both of us. I, Sarah, was officially divorced. My sister Maya was officially cured. I picked up the suitcase of money. Sarah picked up Emma. Thank you, director. Thank you, everyone. Sarah said her goodbyes with a nod. I owe you all so much. We turned around. The three of us, hand in hand, walked out of the common room, down the long hallway, and headed for the iron gate. It was really over. Both hells were behind us. The heavy iron door closed behind us with a final creak. The dazzling summer sun washed over us. I shielded my eyes with my hand. The last time I escaped, this sun smelled like war. This time it smelled like freedom. The tea was warm. It smelled of tree sap of life. Emma leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Mommy, Auntie Maya, where are we going now? Sarah looked at me and I looked at her. We saw confusion in our eyes, but above all, great hope. Sarah said. Her voice was still shaking. We are going home. Home? Yes. Where? Sarah smiled. Wherever the three of us are together. That's our home. I burst out laughing. You're right. But first we need a place to wash up and sleep. A very clean place. Called a taxi. Sir, take us to the best hotel in the area. We rented a large hotel room with a bathtub and white sheets. When the room door closed, separating us from the noisy world, Sarah finally relaxed. She put Emma on the floor, fell down and burst into tears. She sobbed like she was throwing up the 7 years of shame, beatings, and fear that had settled into her bones. I sat next to her in silence and hugged her. Emma too, with her small arms, hugged her mother and me. Mommy, don't cry. Auntie Maya and Emma are here. We hugged like that, crying and then laughing. After a good bath, we ordered room service. Lots of food, roast chicken, soup, cake. The three of us ate a decent meal for the first time without fear or worry. Emma smeared cake all over her face and laughed out loud. Her clear, crystal laugh like spring water washed away the darkness from our hearts. That night I put the suitcase of money on the table. $620,000. Sister, this is your money and Emma's, I said. Sarah shook her head. It's not just our money. If it weren't for you, my daughter and I would probably be dead. Maya, you saved my whole life. We saved each other. I took her hand. Now we have to live. Live very well for our parents too. The next day we went shopping. The first thing we did was throw away all the old clothes. I threw away my patient clothes. Sarah threw away the worn-out clothes from her married life. We bought new clothes. Cheerful, colorful dresses. We also bought nice clothes for Emma. We looked like three completely different people. We didn't buy a house right away with the money. We knew we needed time to settle down. I rented a small apartment in another neighborhood, far from that dark alley. An apartment on a high floor, full of sun. We decorated it ourselves. We bought a new bed for Emma and a very large bookshelf. I told Sarah, for 10 years my only friends were books. Now I want to read all the books in the world. Sarah, she rediscovered her passion. She used to be very good at sewing. She bought a sewing machine. She started making dresses for Emma, making curtains. Our little house became cozier every day. Emma started going to daycare. At first she was shy, but she soon made friends. She was a smart and loving child, and she was no longer afraid. One afternoon at sunset, I was sitting on the balcony reading a book. Sarah was making dinner in the kitchen. It smelled of fish stew, but this was a fish stew made with love, not the salty stew of hate. Emma was coloring. Sarah brought out a plate of fruit. What are you reading? A law book, I smiled. I think I should know some things. Are you still angry? Sarah asked carefully. I closed the book and looked at the glowing sky. Yes, I'm still angry. Angry at that trash. Angry about the 10 years I was locked up. But I turned to her. That rage doesn't burn me anymore. Now it's like a warm coal. A warm coal that reminds me how strong I was and that I will never again let anyone step on my sister, my niece or myself. Sarah smiled. Maya, you no longer need to be crazy or act strong. Here you just have to be Maya, my sister. He nodded. Understood. My madness wasn't a sickness. It was fighting back. The madness wasn't in me, but in that family, in those soulless creatures. We didn't run from madness. We simply escaped the cage of the beasts. I looked at the smiling Sarah, at Emma humming a song. 10 years in the dark were waiting for a single sunrise. Even though late, still dazzling. Our new life had just begun. For years people called me crazy. They locked me away, thinking that because I felt too much, I didn't belong in this world. But sometimes feeling too much is the only thing that keeps you human. If I hadn't felt every bit of my sister's pain, if I hadn't let that pain burn in me, maybe I never would have had the courage to act. I didn't just fight for Sarah or for little Emma. I fought for every woman who's ever been silenced, every soul who's ever been told to endure. Looking back now, I realize that strength isn't about how hard you hit. It's about how deeply you love, even when love hurts. It's about refusing to let fear control you. Sometimes you have to become the storm so others can finally see the light. And you know what? I'm not ashamed of what I did. Because for the first time, Sarah and Emma can wake up without fear. For the first time, that little girl can laugh instead of flinching. Maybe justice doesn't always come wearing a badge or holding a hammer. Sometimes it comes wearing your face. The face of someone who's had enough. If there's something I've learned, it's this. No one deserves to live in silence. You can stay quiet and let the pain eat you alive, or you can stand up even shaking and say, "No more." The moment you do, the world starts to change, even if it's just your small corner of it. If you agree with me and enjoyed my story, show it by giving this video a like. Let's see how many of us are out there. I'm curious. Which city and what time are you listening from? Write it in the comments. If you'd like to support me on my journey, you can send a small donation. Thank you for listening and for sharing your precious time with me. For more life stories like this, you can check out other videos on my channel and subscribe. On the screen you'll see 2 new stories I'm sure you'll love. Click one and start watching right away. Love to you.